I am unable to tell you anything interesting about the dark side of the moon. I am not going to provide any profound opinions or insights into this. This is actually what I hope will be a regular series on my channel where I discuss music albums that are very popular or just that I've never listened to before, and I am discussing them from the perspective of what I would like to refer to as a music idiot. Despite my love of musicals and easy listening, I don't really have the biggest palette when it comes to artists and indeed popular albums. I'm pretty much as thick as when it comes to music pop culture. You know, give me John Barrowman or Katherine Jenkins, amazing. But Pink Floyd, this is my first time ever listening to Pink Floyd, to the best of my knowledge. I may have heard one or two of their songs before, but this one was actually recommended to me. The Dark Side of the Moon is often hailed as one of the greatest albums of all time, and I was curious to check it out. So I will say I didn't like it that much. There were a few songs on it that I thought were decent, one of which I actually really loved, and I will say what that one was. But I feel like this is more of an album for people who have a deep love of the history of music. I feel it's very much in the same way as, a lot of casual film viewers get quite bored by some of the older classic films because they're not as fast-paced or action-packed as a lot of today's films. But if you're a fan of the history of cinema, it's a different story. I feel like this is the same. For me, listening to it, apart from a few songs, I felt nothing. No emotions at all. And in fact, in certain cases, I didn't like it. Not just neutral, but actually negative. But I assume if you're a fan of music and you can read a lot more into this, then maybe it's something that you would actually enjoy. It was filmed at Abbey Road Studios, though. I'm so used to talking about films, I do not have the vocabulary to discuss this properly. It was recorded at Abbey Road Studios, which is pretty cool. So this was released in 1973, apparently the 8th studio album by Pink Floyd. And there are 10 tracks on this one. And to be honest, I was a bit confused why it started with a very weak, small track. As a storytelling album, maybe it's nice to be kind of dragged in slowly. But for me, I expected something better to be hooked in with the first track of the album. But I'll talk about that in a moment. The reason that this is quite interesting, apparently, I'm saying apparently because to me it means nothing, but I've read several articles about why it's so popular, because I was very confused about that, and also spoke to several people, and one of the main reasons is because of how innovative it was at the time in the beginning of the 1970s when it was recorded. It experimented with various different synthesizers, none of which I can name or know anything about, but apparently it was quite groundbreaking in that respect. And I think that's great. Any artist who breaks the mold at the time is great. That much I definitely appreciate. But in terms of progressive rock, it's not my favourite genre, put it that way. If it's not going to be on a West End stage, it won't speak to me immediately. But always happy to give it a go. So with regards to the tracks themselves, the intro, Speak to Me, basically pure instrumental. Most of this is instrumental. Even the songs with vocals are, I would say, 70% instrumental. That's just a random figure I plucked. But for me, I like songs with words. I like lyrics. Speak to Me, I didn't like it. Simple as. And then we have Breathe and On the Run. Neither of those offended me. They didn't do anything for me at all. I wasn't that bad. I wasn't bothered. I just didn't get them. Time, however, I really liked. And thankfully, this is actually one of the longest tracks on the album. It's 6 minutes 53. I believe it's the second longest. And I really liked this one. There was something about it that I thought was pretty catchy. I liked the lyrics. I liked the rhythm. I wouldn't say it spoke to me, but I heard it and I listened and I enjoyed it. A great gig in the sky, and money didn't do anything for me at all. Neither did Us and Them or Any Colour You Like. And you'll realise that that's 8 out of 10 tracks that I have discussed so far. To me, they were fine. Because it's not my genre of music, I can't compare it to anything. So listening to it for me as a music idiot, it was just electronic sounds, basically. But as I said, if you know the genre well, I'm sure you have a deeper connection to it. This is why I'm doing this series, to try and introduce me to different genres, to find out what else I might like or might be interested in. Very much established that Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is not an album for me. However, I quite liked Eclipse, which is the final track on the album, and I really liked the penultimate track, Brain Damage. I loved this. The lyrics spoke to me. I heard what it was saying. I listened intently. I listened to this one multiple times over. I should point out, I listened to the album 3 times all the way through before I made the decision that I probably didn't really want to listen to it a 4th time. But Brain Damage I've listened to several times, as I also have with Time and Eclipse. But for me, Brain Damage is my favourite on the album. So I'm not doing this Music Idiot series to say if I recommend them or not, because it's the other way on for me. It's things that people have recommended to me, and I'll say whether or not it worked well for me. The Dark Side of the Moon did not. From a contemporary perspective, I do not see why it's so popular still, but from a historical aspect and the progression of music, I can see what it did and why it did it well. I understand that some people may like it, and that's fantastic. Music is a very personal choice. There are many songs that I love that a lot of people just will not like, and I get that. I'm completely fine with that. For me, The Dark Side of the Moon is not very good, but there are some tracks in it that I quite liked. I'm glad that I can now say I've listened to it. Chances are, apart from Brain Damage, maybe Time, I probably won't listen to it again.